Denisha, you have the virtual mic. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So I'm with Michelle in person together right now. So we have the lovely Miss Michelle Brathwaite with us. I'll let her do her introduction, then we'll get started.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. I can make it today. I juggled some things around, so I'm here. I didn't want to miss this. So thanks again. So my name is Michelle Brathwaite. I am a regional vice president with Primerica and the co-collaborator with the amazing Denisha McDonald of Our Village Initiative. And we're really excited to be here today to be able to share our level of expertise and experience in terms of what we can do to close the racial wealth gap, but just also to bring financial wellness and financial knowledge to everyone. So thank you.
So today we're going to discuss from your survey, lifestyle management, and that is a form of budgeting. So we'll get deeper into that, debt elimination strategies, and again, strategies on how to improve your credit score and get closer to that elusive 850 credit score that everyone wants to get. Do you need it? Do you not? We'll figure it out.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the psychology of money, because everything is all about mindset, right? I mean, everything that we do and don't do is just based on how we think. And when it comes to money, there are, just some behaviors that we may be conscious or unconscious of what we're doing. And that's either being a producer or a consumer, especially where a lot of companies and organizations, they spend millions of dollars to study us, to study our buying habits. And a lot of times they indoctrinate us that we're not aware of to either be producers or consumers. Let's talk a little bit about that. So as you can see here, producers view their money, as a resource to help them accomplish goals. And so what producers do, they focus on assets, building investments and finding ways that their money can work harder for them than they are working for it. And also producers have that giving mindset with their money. It's a lot of things that you can do philanthropic wise and also for your family. When you have that mindset of how can I keep producing? How do I pass things on? And how do those things continue to work, harder for me than I'm working harder for it? Then there are consumers. And so consumers just kind of, a lot of times, I know for me, I'm a recovering shopaholic. My money was spent on me forgetting about my problems. I did that retail therapy, which Anisha is going to cover a little bit about in a couple of slides down. But whether consciously or subconsciously, we do consume, okay? And consumers really spend money in ways that are allowed to work for them. So you always kind of find yourself like robbing Peter to pay Paul, just kind of doing just enough to get by, not really understanding how we're getting caught up in that trap, because we're always thinking about how can we get the nicer car, the nicer house, the nicer vacation, and all these things, and maybe not aware of how systemic some things are when it comes to indoctrination type of thinking. So go to the next slide. So that's important when it comes to thinking about building our money. And a lot of times it's because we don't have a budget.
Perfect. So now let's talk about budgeting. And it's not fun. It's not sexy, as they say. No one wants to talk about budgets, right? Why? But it's really managing your lifestyle when you think about it, right? And thinking or planning the lifestyle that you want in the future. If you know that the life that you want is going to cost you about $40,000 a year just in the expenses to maintain that, you probably need to make more than 50 to accommodate the lifestyle that you want. So starting to work backwards and orchestrate, what is it that I want? What are the expectations and how do I get there? And part of that is by creating a budget. And you need to have, first thing would be a goal. What are your financial goals? And we're going to start putting deadlines to that and specificity within that goal. So you make sure that you're tracking it to know, how do I know if I say I want to, we'll use weight, right? For health reasons. I want to lose weight this year. If I lose 1 pound, technically I'm successful because I did lose weight. But what was the actual goal? So when you're thinking about your finances, same thing. I want to save this year. How much do you want to save by the end of the year is what we're working on, okay? So we want to make sure when we're creating a budget, it's designed to help us understand where our money goes instead of wondering where it went. Your money, where it goes to wondering you get paid on Friday, a week later it's all gone, or you're down to $50 left account. We want that, right? We want to know where our money is going because we were intentional about telling it where to go. Okay. So one of the popular budgeting rules out there is a 50-30-20, where 50% goes towards your needs, 30% goes towards your wants, 20% goes towards savings and investing. This is not a hard, fast rule, right? We have to make sure it makes sense for your life, because for some people, it may be where you can put 40% towards saving and investing, or 50% towards saving and investing, because you're able to cut down on your needs, right? Those expenses are not that high. So we're making sure we're customizing, but the general rule of what they want you to stay within is within this 50, 30, 20 rule to make sure you're covering all of your essentials. So now let's think about creating the actual budget. You need to sit down and pick a day where you're going to be real with yourself and deal with what you see. You're going to grab the past 3 months, you like to say, of your financial statements, so your bank statements, your credit card statements, everything, right? And you lay it all out on the table. And the reason why is because we want to see what's happening, not what we think is happening. We want to see it, right? Because you can't say, I don't eat out a lot when I see you spent $1,000 dining out. Doesn't work. Okay, so now you have all of your expenses and you're going to list them out, such as your mortgage or your rent, car payments, utilities, everything, lay them out, and all of your sources of income, right? You have work for your income from your job. Maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe there's rental income, social security, dividends from your stocks, whatever it is, all of that is income. So you're going to gather those things. I'm going to start to take a look at them. You're going to total up all of your income. What is that? And you keep that in one column. Then you're going to total all of your expenses because you're tracking everything, grocery, gas, everything goes on that list. And then you're going to subtract your expenses from the income, and what's left over is really what you have to do everything else with. We'd like to say prioritizing first as money goes towards your emergency fund, because if life happens, you want to make sure you're protected and you're not, kept with putting everything on a credit card, putting you further in debt. So you want to make sure you have money set aside for an emergency and then for your long-term goals and your other goals that you have. But making sure you're tracking how much money is coming in and how much money is going out is critical. And we tend not to do that. We have an idea of what it looks like, but when you sit down and you write out your finances, you have to see it and you have to deal with what you see. It may be good, it may be bad, and it may be something that you can work on with a professional, or you might be able to do it on your own. So you're going to review that budget and tweak it because life happens, right? Maybe this month your grocery budget is $500, but summer is coming, kids are home, grocery budget might go up to $700, right? So you're budgeting and you're preparing ahead of time for these things because you know it's coming, right? That's the benefit. Right now we know student loans are coming back, right? So you should be planning now to get your budget in line for when it resumes in September, right? Don't wait till September to then figure it out. Start seeing, well, what do I need to cut back on now? Because I have to start making these payments again. Because if you miss it, then your credit score gets affected and we start spiraling. We don't want any of that to happen, okay? So you're going to be comparing all of your numbers and tweaking. It's not a perfect science. It's not going to be solved in one day or one time looking at your budget. You're going to be looking at it over time and making adjustments until you find that sweet spot that works for you. So like I said, the money left over, that's yours, right? That's the money that you can save and do what you need to. Michelle said she's a recovering shopaholic, right? So this image, if that's you, don't do that, right? But for you, you want to make sure that you're cutting out that habit and only spending on what you need versus what you want and not confusing the two. Food is a need. We need food to sustain life. We need to eat. Chipotle is a want. Right? It is food, but I don't have to eat Chipotle. I can go home and make the rice and beans and chicken myself. So understanding what's the need versus the want and not letting that want trick you into thinking it's a need, because that's money. That's $10 right there that you could put into an investment account. That's $10 that you could put towards paying off a credit card. So just making sure you're prioritizing the right things. One trick that I use, taught to me by Michelle actually, is thinking about the cost of what you're buying and how many hours you have to work to make that, to actually pay for it, right? So if you know it costs $75 and you're making, let's say, $15 an hour, do you really want to work 5 hours just to buy this item? Is it worth 5 hours of your day to purchase this one item, and how long is it going to last, right? So when you start thinking about it in terms of hours work, does it make sense? My kids are 9 and 10, and they do this now because they earn money for allowance, and I make them, and it's like, do you really want to do that? Because if you don't have enough, you need to save up the money, and they're like, how many more chores do I need to do to buy it? And then they go, wait, I don't really want it anymore. Because now they're starting to think like that cost value, does it make sense? Is it worth it for me? So there are tons of budgeting tools out there that we have a lot, which is a great time when you're thinking about budgeting. You just have to figure out what works best for you. If you like spreadsheets, if you prefer apps on your phone, if you want to use a computer-based model, PowerPay is something that's online that helps you do it. It's free as well. Some of the apps are free, some you do have to pay for. So we have Mint.com, that's an app as well, that's free. YNAB is You Need a Budget. I believe that one you pay for, and then Every Dollar Budget. So it just depends on which one works best for you. So you might be trying out a few of them before you find the one that is best for your needs.
Yeah, and one important thing about the budget is, no one likes to be told what to do, but we need to give our money instructions, right? And it's just, it's not so much about what you can't do. Budgeting is something so you can do the things that you want to do without compromising things that you need to do, right? And so one of the things that we need to do is save money, but then things we want to do is have a quality of life. And the only way that's going to happen is if we have a budget, because the budget is just now figuring out, once I take care of all the things I want and I need, and if I do have money left over, what do I do with it? So this is why we talk about this important rule. So when I started in Primerica, this rule changed my life. And I just was so upset because when I went to business school and I never learned it. I never learned it there. Okay. So we teach this to our clients, and we go out into the community and teach this, because this is how you build wealth. This is what the insurance companies, brokerage houses, all these institutions know about this, but they're not teaching us, and we don't learn it in school. So here's the concept. So the concept is just how fast it takes your money to double. Okay. The mathematical formula is you take the interest rate that you're earning on wherever you got your money. Okay. And you divide that into 72, and that's going to tell you the number of years it's going to take for your money to double. Okay. So we're on a race to have financial security and financial freedom. So when is that going to come? Is that 10 years from now? Is that like 30 years from now? So wherever you're putting your money. Okay. So let's say that the money that you're making right now, after you paid off all your debts and all your expenses, and maybe it took you 2 years to save 10,000. Maybe it took you 5 years to save 10,000. The question is now that you have the 10,000, how do you grow the 10 to, like, let's say $500,000? Okay, what do you do? And that's where the investments come in. So 72 divides into 3. That's the math. Okay, take 72, divide into the interest rate. Okay, so 72 goes into 3 24 times. So what that means is you got to 24 years for your 10 to double to 20, and another 24 years for your 20 to double to 40. Now, I don't know about you, if you have that many doubling periods in your life that you want to wait that long. Okay. So let's say you get 6%, especially now. It was interesting. We have these banks giving 3, 4, 5, 6%, but you don't know how the math works on that. So we teach you how the math works. Okay. So now if you look at 6%, now the money's doubling every 12 years. Okay. So 10 to 20, 20, 40, 40 to 80, 80 to 160. So by the time you're, in retirement, so if you're 30 years old now, you're going to be 78 years old, you have 160,000, or you're at age 66, you have 80,000. But what is that going to do for you, if you're trying to build wealth and try to build a level of financial security? So to take a look at 12%, I want you to take a look at the staggering difference it is at the end of that 48, it's $2.5 million. You imagine having that's if you were 20 years old. Let's say you worked from 14 to 16 years old. You saved up, $10,000. Okay. Let's say from 14 years up to 18, you're 18 years old. Okay. So 18 plus 48 was 66. You have $2.5 million. That's a lot of money. Or even for you parents out there, if you put aside, $10,000 for your child at 0 age, by the time they're 18, they'll have 80 grand. I mean, that's a lot of money. But again, the problem is we just don't know where to get 12%. So that's where I come in as a licensed professional to show people, because whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. Go to next. That's what's happening to our money. But the issue is that they loan us out things and we pay 12 and 18 and 19%, but we don't know ways that we can earn 12 and 18 and 19%, and you can. Okay. Now here's the thing. Now today we're only talking about how we're paying 18 and 19% on debt. And a lot of it is through credit cards. I'm pretty sure if all of you, your homework, right? So your homework today, you can go to the next slide. Your homework is to find out, I'd like you to go back to January, pull up your Capital One, your Chase, your Visa, your Credit One, whatever credit card you have. I bet you if you pull up your statement for your credit card in January, your APR or your interest rate, okay, is much lower in January than it is right now because the Fed rates changes. So we got to stay on top of that. And so that's why it's very difficult to get out of debt. So we came up with these two, not came up, but we share these two strategies and on how you can tackle debt. Okay. So again, you set a goal, you pick your you set and you get on track with the budget. But then once you do that, then you got to get a handle of your debt. So here's a snowball and an avalanche. So the snowball is you focus on the debt size as a priority. And the avalanche is that you take the highest interest rate as the priority. So here's how it works. So you make your minimum payment, okay, on the snowball. And then what you do is that you make extra payments on the smallest one, the smallest credit card balance. Then when that one's paid off, then you go to the next one, okay? Now the avalanche is a little different. What you're doing is that you're making extra payments on the one with the highest interest rate. So if you have two credit cards and one is 20% and one is 24%. Again, if you're going to do the avalanche, you're going to focus on the one with the 24%. But on the snowball, the one with the lower interest rate may have a smaller balance. So you got to figure out, kind of which one works best for you. Okay. And then so once you do that, right, then what you do is that you stack it onto the next. So let's say here, so I have a financial software that I help my clients with, and they put it in order based on the balance, the interest rate, how the rate's calculated, and they put a target account. And they say, you know what, the account that we're going to target first is retail card number one, not credit card number one, because once it's paid off, you have $100, and then you can stack it on credit card number two. So now credit card number two, you were paying a minimum $120. Now you have $100 freed up. Don't spend it like I used to, okay? Now your new minimum is now $220 and you stack it. And now once that one's paid off, then you go on to the next and next and next. So imagine, for those of you that have mortgages out there, imagine getting rid of all of your consumer debt, and whatever your payments were, you get to throw that on top of your mortgage. You can take your 30-year note and knock it down to 20 years just by adding extra money without going broke, just by using the money that you already have. And that's what Denise and I, we do. We teach people strategies, not things that, that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but real proven strategies. We'll go to the next one. That's going to help do that. So now, speaking of paying your mortgage off, this is like one of the best kept secrets, and we love to teach this, okay? So when I started in Primerica, these are the things that I did. This is how I was also able to pay off my student loans and my credit card debt in like 18 months, then apply the same strategy and paid my mortgage off, okay? So what you do is it's called biweekly. Best kept secret ever. So here's how it works. Let's say you have a mortgage payment of $1,330.60. Okay. If you were to make that payment every single month, you will pay about $15,967 a year. Now, the problem is that in school, we're not taught money math, but watch this. Biweekly payments, what you're doing is you're taking your payment and you're cutting it in half. In this example, the half payment is $665.30, and you're going to pay that every 2 weeks. Okay. Because there's 52 weeks, in a year, and you're making biweekly, you would times that half payment by 26. Once again, there are 52 weeks in a year, but because this is biweekly, where it's half, half of it, we're doing 26 payments. So you're taking that half payment and look at what happens. That half payment times 26, you're actually paying $17,297. So you're making one extra payment per year by doing the strategy versus paying it once a month. That's huge. So what you're able to do is take a 30-year note and knock it down to about 23 years and 9 months and saving hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of dollars worth of interest. It's crazy. You don't have to be dragging that mortgage into retirement, okay? So we teach, our clients, this all the time, especially Denisha. She has her specialty is also in her wealth building strategy. Specialty is real estate. And just because you got a mortgage for 30 years doesn't mean you got to pay for it for 30 years. This is just using the same money, but just splitting it up, and you're able to really annihilate your mortgage without adding any additional money. But if you had extra money, If it's in the budget, let's leave the budget, do it. Now, here's, you can see an example, same with your auto. You can do the biweekly strategy for credit cards. You can do it for mortgages. You can do it for student loans, and you can do it for auto. In this particular example, the half payment here is $317.48. Once again, you put it on biweekly, you can pay $5,242 in interest versus $5,717 in interest. Now, you may think that, oh, well, I'm only saving $474 worth of interest. No, you're shaving off 6 months of car payments. And in this example, it's over $600. So imagine that you take $600 a month, you times it by 6, that's $3,600 that you get to keep to build your emergency fund. You can add that to your down payment to buy a house. Again, it just gives you a lot of options. Okay. And that's what we teach here. We want to teach people the strategies that you can, that aren't being taught, that everybody can apply, to build wealth and to get out of debt quickly.
And I think it's a difference of thinking short-term versus long-term, right? You want to enjoy all the things in life now.
Right.
But then we get into, and it hurts me when you see our elders, they're 70, they're 80, and they're working at Walmart, right? And some of that's because they didn't know all of these strategies when they were younger, and they weren't saving or doing those things. But we want to make sure we're educating people so that you can be the change and break that cycle for your family, if that's your family history, right? So you can use these strategies to be debt-free, to invest more, so you don't have to do that. And you can live your best life at 60. You can live your best life at 45, right? And you don't have to wait till you retire to do that.
Exactly.
But it takes strategy. So now we're going to talk about credit. So we figured out our budget. So we know we have money to invest. We have money to pay off our debt. But my credit score is like a 400. What do I do, right? How do I get to this elusive 850 that everyone talks about? So we know that our credit is monitored by the credit bureaus, and then you have TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, right? So I think everyone, for the most part, knows that they're monitoring everything that we do that is charged. But now, how are they calculated? It ranges from 300 to 850. You don't start off at zero. Zero technically is you have no credit history. You're not on anyone's radar because you pay cash for everything. But once you get on the radar, right, you're from 300 to 850. And honestly, you don't even start at 300, because if you have any sort of credit history and you've been paying on time as we go through these things, you should be in the 600s, right? If you're below 600, that means you did something wrong, right? You don't start off with credit history and be at 300 or 500. Like, you had to miss or do something incorrectly to get there. So how you start to think of not manipulating, but using strategy to improve your credit, they look at 35% is payment history. That's 192 points already. If you pay on time every month and you don't miss payments, 35% of your points, you'll have that 192 added to the 300 instant, right? To help you build your credit. Next, they're looking at amount owed. If you have $1,000 card and you're using $900 every month on that card, that means you're using 90% of what they loaned you. And that means to them, you're not really good at managing your money because you need my money every month. Like, you need to borrow from me every month to make ends meet. So that's why we don't want to use all of it. So if you can keep that within a reasonable number that we'll talk about, that's 30%. That's 165 points going towards your credit. Next, they're looking at the length of history that you have. The longer you've had a credit card, an auto loan, even student loans, that actually helps you build your credit because they're showing you've had a history of borrowing money and paying it back on time, right? And then the last two are your credit mix and new credit. So these are about 55 points each. And that's just as you're building little things to help you, right? But when you're thinking about, I want to improve my credit score, pay your bills on time. Like, you have to pay your bills on time, and make sure you're not maxing out all of your cards, because that really does start to hurt you. We talk about credit utilization, right? The $900 of the $1,000 card. Ideally, we want to be no more than 30% utilization. So that would be $300 on that $1,000 card, because that shows them that I can use your money, but I don't need it, right? I can use and leverage your credit card, but I don't need it to survive. And then you're paying it off on time to help boost your score. If you are not at 30, you're above that. Once you get to 30%, you're going to see a huge spike in your credit score. If you continue to pay it down and you get to that 10%, you're going to see another spike in your credit score. There's certain things and points that they look for that they help you boost your score over time.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest purchase that we have, that we make that requires credit? For most of us, that's going to be purchasing a house, right? So if that's on your radar, you have to start thinking of, what do I need to do now? Even if your goal is 5 years from now, because the things you do today affect what happens 5 years from now, right? So the minimum credit score for most of the programs that exist in Massachusetts right now is a 640 if you're trying to buy a condo or single family, and a 660 if you're trying to buy a multifamily. I try to get people as close to 680 as possible. Higher, the better. But for me, 680, because when they pull your credit, it drops a little bit. So we want to give you some wiggle room in there. Lenders always look at your middle score of the three. And you must have 3 trade lines. So whether that's student loans, an auto loan, credit card, or 2 credit cards and student loans, they need 3 trade lines to track. Okay. Again, trying to keep that below that 30% utilization. Anything that's inaccurate on your report, you want to make sure you remove those. You dispute them to have them corrected, or you write letters explaining why they're there, so that the lenders aren't confused or second guessing if they should loan you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. And just explain any inquiries or anything like that on your report. If you have no credit, so I am from the Caribbean, I'm originally from Trinidad. Everything is paid for in cash usually. Now credit cards are starting to become a thing, but if you don't pay cash, like, you're not getting it, right? If you don't have the money, you can't buy it. That's a good thing. That's really great for managing your money. But in America, credit is king, not so much cash. Like, you go a lot further with having great credit score than having actual cash on you. So you need to have 3 trade lines, so to speak. What they use are 12 months of your rent payments. You need to have it the same time of month. So if you always pay on the first, commit to the first. You need to make sure that payment is on, it shows up on your statement as deducted. It needs to go to the same person, so that landlord every month, same time, same amount. Don't say I'm giving you $1,000 on the 30th and the $2,000 on the first, because that's how money came in. They need to see it consistent and the same for 12 months so that it can count. If you mess that sequence up, it doesn't count at all. So you lose that trade line. Then you can use a utility bill where the address that you're at, same thing, making sure you're paying on time every month and they can see the track record of that. And then your car insurance or anything else, they need to see that you pay on time every month consistently. So other strategies to improve your score that we talked about before, make sure you're disputing any inaccuracies. Do not max out your credit card. If you do, because some people, things happen, and maybe you use the credit card, but you do have the cash, but you want the points because the points give you, free trips and things, right? Then you want to pay before the close date and not the due date. So look on your statement and look at when they close, because that's when they report to the credit bureau, right? Not the due date. The due date happens after. So they look at if you pay it before the close date, they're going to report that lower balance. So if you did max it out to $900, right? But you were able to pay that down, pay an extra $600 on that to get it to the 300, like we said before, they're only going to report that you use 30% of your card as opposed to the 90% because of when you made the payment. So that's another way of tricking the system, because you're still spending it, but you're paying it down right before they report it. So it helps you in that regard. And then you can get better rates from lenders, which a lot of people don't know. Right now, it might be a little bit difficult, but I say shoot your shot, try, because you never know. The worst they say is no right now, but we know it works because we've done it for the past few years, right? So you can call your credit card company if you know you've been paying your bills on time, you haven't missed payments, you've been a great customer for a number of years, and ask them, hey, can I get an interest rate reduction? I've been a great customer. Can you reduce my interest rate? And a few things might happen as a result of that, right? They will either say yes, and they will reduce it. I've had mine reduce 3%, 5%. My mom has had hers reduced where they gave her 0% interest for 6 months. So she was able to pay down a huge chunk on that during that 6-month period. Or they'll give you a refund or a rebate of the interest payments. That's the right way of phrasing it?
The credit, yeah.
Credit.
If you ask, they can, let's say you're carrying a balance. If you ask, they can even credit you back the actual, the charges, the interest charges that have accrued. Because again, your payment is made up of with your balance, at the 2% of your balance, and plus whatever your APR is, they charge you on top of that balance. So sometimes your payment could be $100, but only $10 of that 100 is going towards the principal and 90 is going towards the interest that they charged you, right? But sometimes you can even ask, because they've done that with me. This is why we teach it, because no one knows that you could ask.
They don't tell you.
Yeah.
It's not written anywhere and it's not advertised, but you can do it. It's possible. And if the person on the phone says no, ask to talk to their supervisor,
Every month.
ask to talk to someone else. And I was lucky enough to have someone respond favorably a few years ago. So I know every 6 months is kind of the key right there. When you get it, to call and check in, because they won't do it before that. So if you did it 6 months, wait 6 months after that and try again, and they may reduce it some more.
Yeah.
Michelle give you guys homework at the start of this to go look at your statements. I really hope you guys do, because you will see, just doesn't matter if you had an 800 credit score or a 500 credit score, everyone's interest rate went up this year. Okay, so try and see if they're willing to reduce that.
Mhm.
And I would say, take a picture of this slide. This is the script that you can use to see if they will give it. And if it doesn't work now, you try again next month, you try again next month, you keep trying until they say yes. Don't give up. Persistence wins, right? The only people this doesn't really work for is if you have a department store card. So if you have Victoria's Secrets, Macy's, any of those, they tend to have a fixed interest rate. So it doesn't matter if you have bad credit, great credit, it's 23% or 25% interest no matter what. So they're not going to reduce anything. They're more used to leverage putting a trade line on your account, so to speak, so you can boost your credit. But you won't get, any benefits or help from them to help you with that. Okay. So just to recap, we're going to do, you guys learned about budgeting, but we like to call it lifestyle management, because that is really what you're doing at the end of the day, right? Debt elimination. So making sure you're conscious and have a strategy in paying off your debt. Do not pay off the credit card and then go use the credit card and rack it back up, because it just defeated the whole purpose of that, right? If you have a long-term goal of early retirement, buying a home and saving for that down payment, anything, remember, when you make those decisions to max out your card, you're prolonging that goal being accomplished. So you have to want it really badly. And then we showed you some strategies on how to improve your credit score. And it's within reach. It really is. And if you're using that, our strategy of paying bi-weekly payments, right? I use it for my car. So my car actually gets paid every week. I divided my payment into 4, and they get mailed that check from the bank every week to help pay my cars off faster.
Awesome.
Okay, so these strategies do work. We practice what we preach. Just a little information on what we do. We've worked in the past 2 years to help members of the community save, manage their finances, buy homes. Collectively, we've been able to help people save over $150,000 up to 2022, the end of 2022. We'll tabulate what that looks like at the end of this year, because I know it's gone up significantly and we're really excited. But that's the mission, to help people get in the habit of saving. And some of that is saving so that they can invest, even to purchase a home, but technically that's an investment also, right? So it's all saving to invest, to build wealth is the goal. We also focus on affordable homeownership. So working to bring any opportunities of homes for purchase that are significantly at a discount compared to the market. So right now we're working on a project in Olmsted Green, so in Mattapan, where they're bringing 2 and 3 bedroom townhomes, which are starting at $275,000, which,
wow,
a 1 bedroom in Boston is not $275,000. A studio in Boston is not that price. So trying to get the word out for those who are interested, so that they are prepared for these opportunities, so that they can take advantage of it.
It's huge.
And we'd love to invite you guys to join us at our Build Black Wealth session. It's every second Wednesday of the month, where we discuss a different barrier to wealth creation, and we focus on solutions. So we're not talking about the problem. I think we all know what the problems are, but how do we solve it for ourselves? So that's what we do. We gather together online every second Wednesday. This past Wednesday, we were talking about life insurance and what are the different types and how can you use it depending on your goals, because everything is about strategy and what's your end goal, right? A great financial advisor will help you map out the plan to accomplish what you want in the end, right? So we encourage you to join us for the sessions that we have for the rest of this year, as we build upon the habits and the tools to help you build wealth for you and your family. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, we'll take those now. Our contact information is here, and then I will also place the survey in the chat.
All right. I'm gonna stop the recording.